The only thing you can do to slow it down at all is to keep the flow of adrenaline constant. Meaning, if you stop, you die. Hang on! Jesus, what was... Are you there? Are you okay? What?
What'd you say, Doc?
If you stop, you die.
Man, let me tell you, if that was me, I'd be dead in an instant.
Dead in an instant.
I'd be laying in that. I wouldn't have gotten up from that bed. I'd be done. First person mode, and then I'd be just flopping on the ground. It's over.
I get tired too easy. I can't be having high adrenaline for more than like 10 minutes, really.
How far did he run in this movie? Because like, if I ran from the kitchen to the basement or however far he went, I'd probably be on my face in the ground.
But when you pop some drugs into you, I guess that's, you got the artificial juice,
Were you tired watching this? Like, did it make you tired watching it?
Yeah, I just needed him to sit down for a minute. That's what I wanted.
He did. Welcome back. This is episode 153 of the Last Row Podcast. If you are new to the show, check out our website, thelastrowpodcast.com. Follow us on all the social channels, X, Facebook, Instagram at The Last Row Pod. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star review. I'm tired, man. This was a tiring one to watch, but I liked it.
Yeah, I definitely feel opposite of the movie. Like, I don't want to be Crank. Like, can I call Chev Chelios? Like, Chev Chelios is a great name, but like, I kind of want to call him Crank.
He is Crank.
He is Crank. Yeah.
Jason Statham is Crank.
Chev Crank Chelios.
It's a great name.
So we're talking about Crank, September 1st, 2006. I believe this was a DVD watch for us back in 2007. We were living together.
Or no, did I see this in the theater?
I don't think I saw it.
I think I did. I think.
Runtime 1 hour 33 minutes.
Just
about right. I was ready for it to be over. Like, I was done.
Really?
To be honest, yeah. Like, I liked it for about an hour 10, and I was like, all right, wrap it up.
Oh man.
Genre action / thriller, directed by Neville Dean and Taylor.
It's a great duo there.
What do you think about directing duos that aren't brothers?
So not the Coens or the Farrellys.
My question is, should they grow up and do their own movies?
But what if it was what it's like you and me? What if we became directors?
I don't know.
You need the magic.
No, I feel like, talking to the microphone is one thing, but directing a whole movie, it's like, are you really that on page with everything on the same page?
Know. I like it. I like the duo. I'm a fan.
Is Neville Dean and Taylor, or did they break up? I did see that one of them, which one is it? Taylor, he did that Nick Cage movie, Mom and Dad, without Neville Dean.
Okay. Well, maybe he needed Neville Dean and it would have gotten more acclaim.
Yeah, maybe it would have been better with, maybe Neville Dean's more of a people person. He knows how to talk to people, talk to the actors, get him to do what he wants.
I will say they have a very specific style of directing, which I'm a fan of. I didn't watch Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, but I feel like this was a very specific, they did Gamer. Did you ever watch Gamer?
No, I should have seen it. I don't know why
you would
I
like
haven't seen it.
I think you would enjoy it. It's not a great movie, but it's like this. It's a fun watch. And this has a very specific style to it. And I feel like it's like almost like gonzo shots, right? I don't even know what to say. Like,
I don't know.
It's hard to describe it. I liked it.
All right, before we get into it, I'm going to ask you about the opening scene, about the first person view. And I know there's an entire movie in first person called Hardcore Henry, which is very similar to this kind of thing. I still
haven't seen that, by the way.
Me either, not in full, because my question is, like, is that an enjoyable viewing experience, or is that just going to make people sick for 90 minutes? Like, there's a reason why Hardcore Henry wasn't a very well-received movie.
Yeah. It's a cool concept.
Yeah.
But it's better as a scene, right? It's in the way it opens. It made sense the way they did it. Same thing with Doom, right? When Carl Urban goes nuts at the end of Doom, that was also a first-person shot. I think in moderation, it's a cool technique, but I think if you're making that your whole movie, I don't know that I could sit through it, but maybe Hardcore Henry's good. I never watched it.
But I think it's a very polarizing thing, and it's not what you want out of your movie. Like, for example, I just looked it up, and Rotten Tomatoes, 51%. IMDb, 6.7 out of 10, which is, in my opinion, probably too high, even though I haven't seen it. Film Affinity 6.1 out of 10. This is just
For Hardcore Henry?
Googling it. For Hardcore Henry, yes.
Oh, okay.
So my point being, it's like 50-50 kind of like, half the audience is going to get turned off because they don't want a friggin' headache watching a first person movie for 90 minutes, right?
I'll give him the award for trying. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think that this movie, I'm glad that they strayed away from it, but it did have a lot of that jittery camera, shaking camera thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it was a very 06 thing to do.
It was.
It was very mid 2000s thing to do. Is this directing style?
I don't know if I'm getting to this age. So you said September 2006, and I'm getting to this age now where obviously the 80s and 90s are things that take you. You watch some of these movies, it takes you back.
Yeah,
like the early 2000s is becoming its own level of nostalgia to me right now, where it's like that sort of post 9/11 like era, like these early 2000s before the 10s. And like this movie, if you showed me this and you didn't tell me what year it was, I could tell you it was 2006.
It would be like between 05 and 07 for sure.
Yeah, it has a very distinct style and feel about it with the jokes that they made, the visual style of it. It has a very specific feel to it.
And there's like a certain grime to it. Like, I don't know. Like, you remember like Domino? The movie Domino, that kind of thing.
Domino Harvey.
Yeah. It's like
I know
very
exactly
similar.
what you're talking about.
Like, when was Domino made? I'm going to look that up right now.
It's probably the same time.
Just to bore the audience. I have to put Domino movie because if I put Domino, they give me pizza.
Yeah.
So, 05. Boom. 05.
There
Done.
you go.
Yeah.
Right there.
Donezo.
What was Payback? Or not Payback. Or Paycheck?
Paycheck. I think
you know
that
what I'm
was
talking about?
Yeah, I think that was a little earlier.
Ben Affleck?
2003. But still.
Right around that time.
Post 9/11.
But these movies are like, you know what I'm talking about? They all have that same feel. I think you're right.
Yeah, right. Anyways, long way of saying Crank. 6.9 out of 10 IMDb.
That's about right to me.
All right. 62 Rotten Tomato.
I liked it. Yep.
Metacritic 57%. Letterboxd 3.2 out of 5. About right.
I think I gave it a 4. I think I did.
4? What are you
I just
watching?
really liked this movie. It was stupid fun to me. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I did like the style of like him, like he was on the phone with his doctor friend or whatever, and they'd show shots of him on the wall as he's running.
I thought it was
it was very stylish.
How about when they had him in the rear view mirror of like the car or the side view mirror?
Like that type of thing. Like that's cool. I like that.
It's very silly, but I just liked it.
Very stylish movie. See that's a Neville Dean thing.
That's not a Taylor.
And it's something that Taylor couldn't do on his own. So they've got to be together.
I like this movie.
Grow up and make your own movies. You're adults. God damn it.
Come on, man. I like it.
Chev Chelios, all-time name. Chelios.
Chevrolet
Chelios. What is Chev short for?
They kept calling him Chevy, but I want to call him Chevrolet.
Chevy? Like is Chevy? Like I didn't think Chevy was a name. I thought it was just like Chevy Chase was named after the car, and that was it.
I wonder too. You know what Chevy Chase's real name is?
What's
Cornelius Crane.
All right, so you got to change that. You have to.
He's 80, by the way. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
But
Jeez.
I was wondering if they called him Chev because they kept calling him Chevy. And did he have a Chevy? Is that what that car was? The muscle car he drove? I didn't look up what kind of car that was.
I wasn't paying attention.
But he's like a British dude, so
not a car guy. He probably shits on Chevys.
Let me see. I'll have to look up what his car was.
Give him a BMW or a Jaguar, right?
There is the classic cars wiki, which why wouldn't they have that? I'll look that up while you read the rest.
Jaguar. Chev Chelios, a hitman wanting to go straight, lets his latest target slip away. Then he awakes the next morning to a phone call that informs him that he has been poisoned and has only an hour to live, unless he keeps adrenaline coursing through his body while he searches for an antidote. It doesn't exist. Okay.
I'm just like, I love this movie. I'm sorry. I really like it.
So, I know how we talked about if you're infected, you see red, and if you're poisoned, you see green, right?
Yeah.
But to me, through my eyes, he was seeing yellow the whole movie. Did you get the feeling he was seeing yellow?
Yes, I did.
While poisoned with this specific cocktail?
Because why does adrenaline
Adrenaline's yellow.
Is yellow.
Adrenaline is
It's
yellow. Yes. I don't know why it is. It just is.
It is. You're right.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
The poison is green. The other one is red. And the adrenaline is yellow. So I 100% agree.
Listeners at home, while you're listening to this podcast, please envision this podcast in yellow.
We're on adrenaline. Oh my God. All right. Taglines. Okay. It's not poison, I guess. Well, the poison is, but anyway, poison in his veins, vengeance in his heart.
Oh man, this reminded me of Randy Orton. I don't know why.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is Randy Orton. There are 1,000 ways to raise your adrenaline. Today, Chev Chelios will need every single one.
Too much. I don't need the whole plot. Let's go.
Quote, my name is Chev Chelios, and today is the day I die.
I'm hooked. I'm kind of hooked by that.
I don't know. I don't need the name. I don't need him quoting himself.
Yeah, it's rare.
If his heart stops pumping adrenaline, it will be the day Chev Chelios dies.
Shouldn't it be if his heart stops pumping adrenaline, his heart stops pumping? Like, couldn't that be the thing?
Yeah, he would.
That's better than putting the Chev. I feel like they're trying to show off that they made such a cool name, Chev Chelios.
Yeah, Chev Chelios.
Sticking it in the tagline.
When you put Chev, the only other Chelios I know is Chris Chelios, the hockey player.
Also a badass hockey player.
Never knew a Chelios besides him. And the last one, you stop, you die.
That's probably the best one because it's simple.
Yeah. I like the first one, poison in his veins, vengeance in his heart.
It's too Randy Orton.
So Neville Dean and Taylor, man, they stretched a $12 million budget into $42.9 million.
Neville Dean, he's the budget man, right? Yeah. So like if Taylor's off on his own, then he's going over budget, and that's why they got to be together. Right?
I mean, isn't that just like, even if it was only one guy, wouldn't it be great to have Neville Dean and Taylor? It's a great name. Like, it's great names as the directors.
They're a good duo of names there.
It's just a good name. Like, you get that on your movie, and I feel like it's just gonna do wonders for it.
Grow up and make your own movie.
The only awards I could find here was a 2006 award for Most Offensive Male Character in the Women Film Critics Circle Awards, which I could see being true, especially given the stuff we're about to go through here. Sure. And the World Stunt Awards. So it won two, and so Statham won for Most Offensive Male Character, and then the World Stunt Awards, 2007 winner of a Taurus Award, Best Specialty Stunt. And Michael Nicely and Sean Graham, the lead character drives in circles on a motorcycle to escape the police. After escaping, he stands on the motorcycle and eventually is thrown off and crashes into an outdoor cafe. I feel like, I don't know what the picture of this cover needs to be, but what did I text you immediately when we were watching this movie? Him standing with his arms wide out like Van Damme and Hard Target.
In the gown.
His ass hanging out in the hospital gown. So let's talk about Jason Statham. This, if I'm not mistaken, is our first official Jason Statham movie.
Yeah.
That I can remember.
It definitely is.
Are you a Jason Statham fan or stan? What do you think of him?
No.
What do you like? What do you like about him? Do you like him?
Yeah, I like him, but I can't call myself a fan because I've seen probably maybe 5 of his movies, if that.
Which ones?
And maybe not all of them were all about him. Like the Fast series and the Hobbs and Shaw of it all. I've seen those. Spy is definitely an underrated movie. Yeah.
You saw Snatch though, right? He's a side character in that.
Yeah, but he's like a side character, what a Italian Job, side character. I don't call those Jason Statham movies. I call them movies that Jason Statham is in, right? But yeah, Expendables, awesome. Mechanic, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of like is it bad if I call him perfectly mediocre? Or
yes.
Is that too hard of of a term? Because hard. I don't know, his movies are really good, but they're also just kind of there. Like, I don't know. I'm not.
No, I think, and I'll say this, I think he's underrated, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
because I think he's not the biggest guy. He's not the guy with the most martial arts moves.
Right.
So, like if you go back, and I don't want to say he's like a Seagal back in the sea of Stallones and Schwarzeneggers, because Seagal was a scumbag, right? Yeah. Jason Statham seems like a stand-up dude for the most part, right? From what we know publicly.
Yeah.
I think he's underrated because I think he's more of like a traditional action star. And like, I'm sure he can do martial arts because he does them in a lot of the movies. Like, I don't know if you saw a War with him and Jet Li.
Yeah.
He was in the one. But like a couple underrated movies that I've seen recently with him in them. I mean, you named a lot of the mainstream ones like Fast and the Furious and stuff like that. There's obviously Transporter. There's like his series. That's what I think of when I think of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Wrath of Man. I think that's a great movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I don't think so.
It's really good. He plays like this just brutal. I can't even describe it without giving it away. He's awesome in it.
So, but yeah, like I don't want to say the word mediocre with a negative connotation, which I think most people take mediocre with a negative connotation. I'm just saying like he's good at what he does, but in the grand scheme of all movies, I don't like jump at the chance to watch a Jason Statham movie. You know what I mean? But he is really good at what he does. He has charisma. He has a certain charisma.
I think he does. He has the charisma, and I think that's why he's really good as, you know, his character in the Fast series and Hobbs and Shaw. Like I think he's really good as that character. He has he's fast talking, which I think is good, so he can deliver lines. Yeah. He's very like smug, which I think is good, and he can kick your ass. And he's not overly muscular to the point where he looks ridiculous or comedic. He's just a bruiser. Like he's a brawler. I don't know the right word, you know?
Yeah, and he can kind of like, I don't know. He's kind of the same character in every movie. He's kind of like British Denzel, kind of.
Yeah, that's true. I can see that. He is.
Maybe less chops, less acting chops, but kind of more charisma. If we're talking action movies. Maybe an R-rated James Bond, if you will. I don't know.
I can't see that. There's another movie I saw recently too called Redemption, which I really liked. That was a good one too. He's in these like under the radar ones, like Homefront. I think he's in another one. But he's good. Yeah, I like him.
He can pull off like doing The Meg with a straight face and making The Meg a legitimate movie, even though it's a ridiculous movie.
I've never actually seen The Meg. I feel like we should watch that for the show. I would like it.
It should be on the short list.
He's in Ghost of Mars. You remember that? Like he's.
I don't remember him in Ghost of Mars. No,
he was in it as like one of the. I'm pretty sure he's in that, right? Are you on his IMDb page?
Yes,
I think he is in that movie, and I think he's like one of the other guys.
But he's not
side character.
He's in Ghost of Mars. He's not starring in Ghost of Mars. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question because you said this before. So you said mediocre, and you don't want to be like negative.
Yeah.
What would you rather be? Would you rather be mediocre or would you rather be average? And which one's worse?
Definitely average. And I shouldn't have said mediocre. I should have said average, even though they're synonyms. Most people don't see mediocre as average. I think they see mediocre as less than.
Yeah,
right?
it's glass half empty instead of glass half full. Yeah. They're kind of the same thing.
They're the same word. But mediocre just sounds so much worse.
It's like you could have been better.
Look, I'm going to officially take back calling Jason Statham's movies mediocre because it makes it sound like I don't like them, which
we're gonna get our action fandom card revoked.
I just don't run to his movies. Is all I'm saying.
I get you,
and maybe I should more. I should run to them more.
You should not sleep on Jason Statham. Let me tell you, go watch Wrath of Man as soon as we're done watching this podcast, doing this podcast. But
I was very pumped up to see War because the Jet Li Statham standoff, great movie. Bank Job, great movie. Transporter 1, great movie. Never saw 2 or 3. I'm sure they're good.
I never saw that either. I've never seen Crank High Voltage either, which after this movie, I didn't think, how would you even make that? But I just assumed, and I forgot that in the end, the way this ended. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah. Deckard Shaw, all like transformed the Furious franchise, the Fast and Furious franchise, with his awesome performance there.
A great character.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Chevrolet Chelios because I feel what if he was like a car salesman? It's like, come on down to Chev Chelios.
To me,
Chelios Chevrolet.
Chelios Chevrolet. My kind of car.
He's like selling Camaros and
they're all Camaros. Yeah, they're all Camaros.
Not a Corvette.
He's not selling bolts.
Yeah, he's not selling a bolt. He's not selling a Corvette. That's too much. Yeah. He's selling Camaros.
Yep.
Chevy Camaro Chelios. Why is he cranked? Do you know why? Because it took me a minute to realize like the absurdity of this plot.
I don't know. He's cranked because he's a hitman and he was alleged to have done his job and hit the guy, and he actually didn't hit him. And then, from what I could tell, I watched this movie and I did not fall asleep. I promise you, but I still don't fully understand.
Do we trust in people?
What happened at the end of this movie to why he was drug cocktailed in the beginning? Like, to me, he's a hitman you don't blame the hitman for killing someone. Like he's a tool. He might as well be the gun. There's no personal vendettas for any hitman hit, right? So why did he get drugged? Why did he get cranked?
Well, he was a tool to kill Don Kim, as well as take the fall for it. So it was implied.
So they're gonna blame him for personally killing him, not contract killing him.
Yeah, but
his job is hitman.
That's the thing. It's silly. So I found this on, I don't know if this is IMDb or the Wikipedia page or something, right? But I think it was the Wikipedia page. It says, Chev Chelios is a LA-based British hitman, works for the crime syndicate led by Don Carlito Carlos, Chev Chelios, great names.
Ooh, wow.
Chelios is contracted by Carlito to kill Don Kim. He's a mafia boss, as members of the triads have been encroaching on Carlito's business. Chelios goes to Don Kim and, quote, apparently murders him. In the confusion, Ricky Verona, one of the best names, an ambitious small-time criminal, uses the opportunity to conspire with Carlito against Chelios. Verona will kill Chelios so the triads don't retaliate, and then they take Chelios' place as Carlito's newly hired gun. So Verona looks at it as an opportunity to take over the place that Statham's character has.
Oh, so he wants to be head hitman.
He wants to be the right-hand man, even though he's not, and whatever. Yeah. But then this other guy, Carlito, the problem with him is he took off, he wanted to take his competition out, but then he used Chelios as the fall guy, and it was convenient. But the thing is, okay, they killed Don Kim. Somebody killed him, and aren't they just going to send another guy from the triads? It's like, who's the backup?
I feel like you're thinking so little of the triads to say, oh, look, the hitman, went into business for himself and took out the Don. It's like, no, why would he do that? Like,
he wouldn't.
His job is to kill who you tell him to kill. Why would he all of a sudden why all of a sudden would he have this personal vendetta against the Don? So it just seems like a harebrained plan. I'm so mad at the plan that we're not villains killing.
I agree. I'll allow it because neither him nor Ricky Verona deserves it, because Verona isn't even a bad guy. He's like the wannabe bad guy.
Yeah, he's a henchman.
He's terrible. He isn't even good. So I agree with you. And the last point I'll make, I'll say what I said before. Wouldn't the triads just send another guy? It's like, okay, the quarterback goes down. You put the backup in.
You put the backup in.
You put the backup in. He may not be as good as Don Kim.
Yeah.
But maybe he is good.
Give him a season, he'll learn.
It's a Tom Brady scenario. What if he's even better?
Yeah.
And then Carlito's should have had Don Kim.
We didn't realize how bad Don Kim was messing up until we put in Don Chevy. I don't know.
I don't know. Do you feel like Chelios was good as a hitman? Do you think we didn't really see much?
No. Because during his last job, he's like, I'm getting out of the business. We're going to run away with Amy Smart. You finish the last job. If you leave without finishing the last job, then you have people chasing you. You don't want that. You just got to get it out of the way, finish your last job, kill the guy, and then say, I'm retired.
But did he do it? So this part was not clear to me. When he was talking to Amy Smart, which I want to ask you a question about her in a second, did he not finish the job as insurance in case Carlito was going, or was that a coincidence that just sort of worked out for him? Because that part was very unclear to me.
That's why I didn't get any of it. I didn't understand what, did he have a change of heart because he got a conscience?
Maybe that's what it was.
I love my girlfriend. I cannot kill another person, even though not killing Don Kim led to him killing a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I mean, they show the scene
running
where he's
away,
talking to him.
Yeah,
and they show the scene where he's like, "Hey, I'm having a change of heart. Get out of here if you want to live." But I didn't know if that was just for show or if it was like hey, you know what? Coincidentally, he's still around. Oh, this other guy screwed me, so now I'm gonna go screw him with this guy.
And I don't think it was a scenario of, oh man, if I kill Don Kim, the triad's going to be after me, because Chev Chelios is not to blame for the murder.
He does his job.
Carlito is.
So that's a question maybe about organized crime. But let's say that Carlito sends Chev Chelios. I can't even say the name. Carlito sends Chelios to whack Don Kim.
You call him Crank.
Right? Crank. He sends Crank to whack Don Kim. Are the triads like, yo, we got to kill Chelios? Or are they just like, hey, he's the tool that was used by Carlito. We got to go after Carlito.
It's not personal. The hitman is not personal. It's the guy who sent it. Yeah.
His business.
Right.
Yeah, he's the guy that had to do the job. His name got called.
Your wife hires someone to kill you, right? And the guy fails at that attempt. You're not mad at that guy. You're mad at your wife. Hey, why'd you hire this guy? You're not saying, hey, why are you trying to kill me? Obviously, you know why he's trying to kill you. The only reason he's trying to kill you is because your wife hired him.
If he wasn't killing me, he was killing somebody else. So
right.
It's
all business. It's just business.
You can't be mad at him.
You cannot be mad at a hitman. A hitman can be and deserves to be arrested and put in jail.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's nothing. It's not personal.
It's not personal.
It's all business. Yeah.
It's just business.
It's just business.
I mean, I guess, right? Isn't there some other convoluted movie like The Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife's Daughter or something? Whatever.
I don't know.
Let me ask you another question about Chelios. So he wanted to get out of the business. Is Amy smart? I think her name's Eve. Was she worth getting out of the business for?
More like Amy dumb. Am I right? Am I right?
What was that award that they gave out? The most offensive male podcast host.
I'm sorry. What was your question? I was too busy making a bad joke. What was
was Amy Smart worth getting? Eve was Amy.
Yes, she was worth it. Amy Smart in the mid 2000s. Come on now. You've seen Road Trip.
I've seen Road Trip. I've seen Just Friends.
You've seen Just Friends.
I've seen Butterfly Effect. Maybe that Amy Smart was not worth getting out of the business for.
Well, that's, I mean, you know, it depends on which version you get. Butterfly Effect.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She had a run. Look at that, you know.
I was an Amy Smart
Butterfly
fan.
Effect, Road Trip, Just Friends. That's a run right there.
I would say
that's a 2000s run.
Yeah, in the 2000s, I would say I had a crush on Amy Smart. Right? Is that what you would say at that time period?
Sure. Yeah, and she's like Girl Next Door.
I liked her.
She's not like beautiful bombshell. She's not like Angelina Jolie. She's like Girl Next Door, which is, I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying that she's more
normal.
More normal, yeah.
It's
more
not
normal.
like a supermodel, but like, you know, she's a regular person, which
Angelina Jolie seems like another species, you know, or women like that, right?
Species.
Yeah.
I want to do that movie Species, by the way, with Natasha Henstridge.
Speaking of Species.
But no, I thought it was interesting. Like, I want to know how they met. We'll come back to that when we go through the list here, but I just thought it was an interesting question. Let's talk about Ricky Verona for a second. And this leads into what he did, which gave him, I don't even know if this is insensitive to say, but he gave him the Beijing cocktail. Is that are you allowed to say that? I guess you could, because it was literally that.
I guess literally that, yeah.
I think you said this earlier. He's not worthy of being called a villain. Should he have just killed Chelios? And what was the point of giving him the Beijing cocktail?
So he did see proof that I pay attention to the movie. He did say at some point in the movie, "Oh, I didn't want to just kill you and or leave you begging because you're an adrenaline junkie, and that would be going out the way you want to go out. So I'd rather kill you. So I'd rather you die when you're bored or like when your heart stops pumping adrenaline.
Like
so like
sitting around.
Yeah. So like the opposite of adrenaline junkie. So when he gets bored, he'll die, and that's kind of like that's his suffering. So it was actually not a bad plan, really.
I'll say
it's just you're leaving the window open for this guy to come kill you and your brother. That's all. It
is. Hey, you know what? Your brother dies.
Yeah,
it's kind of your fault there. And I thought that needle in the neck, I did not like that.
Ugh,
I don't like watching needles. I'm not a needle fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like it's there's like things that gross people out. The needle grosses me out. I'm not into that.
So would you rather a needle in your neck or needle in your butt?
I think I'd rather take it on the cheek. Because I feel like the neck, it like went into his freaking spine. It looked like an epidural. It's crazy.
I noticed you were about to say in the butt, and then you stopped yourself.
I said to say cheek.
because could be that sentence could have been clipped.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's gonna clip that? And then this guy.
I like to take it in the butt.
This guy.
Speaking of mid 2000s jokes.
Anyways,
well, how come Ricky Verona wasn't played by the dude from The Substitute, the friend?
Juan Lacus? You talking about Mark Anthony?
No, I'm talking about Tom Berenger's like military friend. And the guy he's also in Training Day, and he's
Joey Six? Raymond Cruz?
Joey Six, yeah.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Ricky Verona Joey Six?
I think Raymond Cruz was too old for this.
Yeah. Then how come Ricky Verona wasn't Michael Pena?
Yeah, could have been him.
Yeah.
If they remake this movie, it'll
Yeah.
be Michael Pena.
Yeah.
And I feel like at least maybe you could have said, I thought you were going to say Luis Guzman, because I feel like
I can't take him seriously.
Rastamans.
I cannot take Luis Guzman seriously. I don't
I
think
just-
anybody does.
I don't want to go on an aside, but I would say that I don't know what the numbers are on The Substitute, but I would say that was one of my favorite episodes that we've done.
It's one of my favorite movies. It's like,
that we've done on this show.
yeah.
It's a very underrated
on or
movie.
off the show. I love that movie.
It's-
Please go back and listen to the episode of
Yeah.
Substitute.
Go back and check out our Substitute episode if you want an in-depth discussion about like doing drugs in schools with Mark Anthony and Juan Lacus, like Joey Six. You're right,
Beating a guy with a highlight glove until he
Yeah.
cries, shits his pants.
I'll tell you what though, would Raymond Cruz see Ricky Verona? I'll give him one absolute credit on his plan here.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he put a DVD message that was on Chev Chelios' like mantle in front of his TV, and it said "F you" on it. And
Okay.
I liked the touch of that. I thought it was a good touch.
He hates this guy. He hates him for some reason.
But like, I wonder if they always said this competition, but they said it was like he was like a low level villain or low level guy that wanted to
just trying to make a move.
Yeah, I just think it's funny, like, to call the guy, a small time criminal. That's funny.
But I guess
to me.
that's how you move up in the criminal world is I'm the man that took out Chev Chelios.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then he took out Carlito at one point,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's no other way to go through this movie except with some adrenaline here, and maybe we could just crank through this, so to speak.
Let's I wouldn't say rapid fire, but let's keep the pace up
Yeah.
and find out what Crank did to stay cranked.
I don't want my adrenaline going down. I don't know about
Yeah.
yours, but
Yeah.
I feel like, and I do want to ask you at the end, so think about this, but what are ways that we could keep our adrenaline up if you were in this scenario? What would you do realistically?
They put that after the credits.
Yeah, maybe we should put that after the credits.
Well, bonus material.
Oh man. Well, let's see. So he wakes up in first person mode, and then he starts falling all over the place, and then he just starts running down the hallway. Like, I'd probably pass out.
This is funny to say, but I'm just gonna say it and feel free to make fun of me for saying this, but we're constantly ourselves in first person mode. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? I
your
feel
life is a first
it's
person.
weird because you don't realize it. Like if I was holding a gun out right now in front of I'm holding my hand out right now. If I had a gun, right, and I was
You're in a first person shooter,
and I was marching, shooting the bad guys, I am in first person mode. But I don't. Sometimes I see myself in third person. I don't know. Maybe I'm a psycho for that. When I live my life, I don't understand.
You got the
first
older
person.
over the shoulder cam.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense because clearly I'm first person.
You're
Maybe I'm alone
imagining
in this.
yourself in third person.
I don't know. You know how people say, "Oh, you have main character syndrome."
Yeah,
where you think the world revolves around you. I'm the opposite of that. I feel like I'm a side character in someone else's movie.
Are we in a simulation? So
Yeah.
you're an NPC in a simulation?
Yeah, maybe I consider myself an NPC. Maybe I'm Taylor to
Neville
your Neville Dean. Maybe I'm Taylor.
You're Taylor.
Because Taylor's the side character to Neville Dean's world.
Neville Dean. I mean,
Yeah.
Neville Dean is a very, very specific name, so
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
I
don't
understand your point, though. I understand your point.
Long story short, all jokes aside, thinking of myself seeing in first person, even though it's called first person, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's kind of an odd thing to wrap my head around.
What about the second person? Do you see?
I don't even know what that is. What is second person?
Isn't it you?
Is that over the shoulder?
Isn't it? Yeah, there is no second person.
I mean, I'm speaking in video game terms.
Yes, a second person shooter.
Yeah.
It's the you perspective. What is the camera's turned at you?
Yeah.
It's you know what a second person shooter is?
What?
It's the camera from what's that movie? MTV Fear or the show where they have the camera pointed back at you.
That's right.
Is that a second person shooter?
Second person. Okay.
It's a second person shooter.
Yeah.
Like, has anyone ever thought of that? I don't know. Maybe they would make that.
Interesting.
It says you. So you are the second person, like the you, you know?
I like that.
So then he gets in his car and he's driving like a madman. Like, I think he quickly realizes that he's got to drive over the speed limit. Like, at what point does that become normal? You know, and how fast do you have to drive to get the adrenaline boost? Is it like in, what's the game? Was it Burnout, when you have to kind of like weave into traffic and you get your boost gauge goes up? Is that like what he's doing? You know, when you do near missing?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it would take a while for that to be normal. I think it would take more than a day. So, yeah, driving crazy, it's all about, you know, reacting to people around you. So, yeah, I think this, but it's only so long until you just started getting chased by the cops, right? And then that itself is an adrenaline rush, is outrunning the cops. But what this movie is missing, to me, I needed a meter.
Yeah.
That told me how close this guy was to death or not, right?
If
so I want to know when I want to know when his adrenaline is spiked and when it's lowering. Because I felt like there was a lot of times, like for example, when he had visited Amy Smart for the first time in the apartment, where he was pretty calm until he fried his hand, which we'll get to. Like, wouldn't that 5 minutes of calmness have been enough to kill him? Or was he elevated from everything? The drinks, the drugs, still the ephedrine still in the system. I think the
drug was there because I think the doctor said something like, "Oh, it's going to wear off," and I think that's how they got out of that. But I think you're right.
So he's allowed to be calm for 5 minutes, like on the surface, because the drugs are working underneath.
Correct.
So that's why I need the meter.
I think that's genius. Yeah. Like if Neville, Dean, and Taylor had a do-over, Crank 3.
Yeah.
I think that maybe it's in Crank 2. I don't know. I never saw 2.
And you could tie it to the bad guy. Like, you tie it to Verona saying, "Hey, buddy, I gave you the Beijing cocktail. Look at your watch. You see your watch? That's showing your heart rate. If it goes under blah, 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 you're dead, asshole."
It's like the speedometer and speed.
Yeah,
if the bus didn't have the speedometer, you wouldn't know how fast it's going.
How do I know how close speed is to not speeding anymore without the speedometer?
So would you rather, let me ask you this, based on your meter request,
would
you rather it be a crankometer on his watch and they show the watch? Or would you rather it be like a first-person shooter little HUD thing where it's got like a meter that you can see as an audience member?
It's two, because he needs to know it also, but I would like, you could make it like 24, where every once in a while they show the clock? They show the clock. Yeah, you could pop it up when it's like spiking. When he's doing something crazy, you show it. And then when he's like needs another hit of drugs or something, or needs to do something crazy, you show it going down. Right?
I think that's a good call by you, man. I never thought of that, but that would be awesome. I think that movie would then I'm giving it a 5 on Letterboxd.
Neville, Dean, Taylor, and Badway. You know, they need a third guy.
They need a third guy. You can be the meter guy.
Yeah.
You're the meter guy.
Yep.
So then I don't know. I mean, like, did you see how he was driving? Did you feel like he was driving crazy enough to keep his meter up then in your meter? Maybe we can pretend there's a meter for us right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think do you ever like run a red light and you're like, "Oh, holy shit."
Yeah, like your heart, your stomach drops.
Yes. Like, that's enough right there to like spike you a little bit. And I'll imagine doing crazy stuff. You know, I think that's a good starting thing.
That's how you cause crashes.
To ramp up. That's how you cause crashes.
That's how you. That's a deep cut there for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Then he shows up at it was like a biker bar, right? But it was like a gang's biker. It was like a biker bar where these dudes, I thought it was a motorcycle club, if I'm not mistaken, because they all had like the cuts, right?
Yeah, it seemed that way. They had the jackets, yeah.
They had the jackets or whatever. And he starts accusing this guy trying to find Verona. And eventually he buys Coke off of him because the guy says it's not free. And he drops it and he starts doing Coke all over the bathroom floor. Now, he did it out of necessity, but if there's Coke on the floor and you're not a regular Coke user, are you going for that?
No, if you're not like fiending for it, you know, because it's that biker bar, they probably just piss on the floor, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that place is covered in piss, that room. Yeah. I mean, I've seen regular bathrooms.
Does snorting the cocaine in a pool of piss raise your adrenaline level? Because it's like, oh man, this is gross. Let's go for it.
Because you might get a disease.
Yeah,
like the riskiness of getting the disease.
Yeah, we'll jump your adrenaline.
Like, oh man, what happens to me if I get this disease? It's your adrenaline goes up. And like, at what point does the coke wear off? Like, I'm not saying the drug effect, like the literal drug effect of doing coke, but how many times can he just do the coke? What if he just had a big supply of it? Could he just keep doing the coke?
I don't know about the body's effects of coke use, but I would think that the heart rate spike is very instant, right?
You would think.
Yeah. So like if you were to overdose, this could be ignorant conversation right here, but the overdosing of coke might happen from taking too many lines, maybe, and like you spike. I feel like it's a very like short thing, right?
Yeah.
This I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never done
cokeheads, all the cokeheads out there, please.
Yeah. The Last Row Podcast at
gmail.com. Let us know the science behind doing coke and your heart rate. But that's my medical opinion.
I just thought it was funny when he's like asking for coke, and then the guy's like, "That's not free, man." And then he drops it, and they're all like, "What is wrong with this guy? He's doing coke off the floor in the bathroom."
They probably think he's some nasty junkie, right?
Because they knew
who's this Chev Chelios guy? Like I know Chev, but I didn't know him. Like
they knew there was piss all over the floor there.
Yeah, they knew.
They knew about it. And then he punches the guy in the face, which is again, I mean, that's a good way to get into adrenaline.
That's a way to spike up your adrenaline. It's get into a fight, right?
I don't remember how he got here then, but then he started driving a car through the mall.
Yeah.
And
that's when he realized the cops were on his tail. So then he was like, I don't know, I got to do something.
He had to up it. Driving regular crazy wasn't enough. So he had to drive through the mall.
Well, that's the thing, because I guess if he were to getting on a chase with the cops in the normal streets, he would eventually get caught. And as soon as he got arrested, he'd be dead. So I guess in his brain, the only way I can get away from the cops, lose my 5-star rating, is to crash through this mall and escape by foot in the crowd, which worked.
Man, I got to say this because I said this to you before we recorded, but this movie had like so much product placement. And let me tell you one thing that they got me, man. They got me with those Pumas. I sought out the shoes that he had because I like brown colored clothes, like shoes, like whatever, and like brown shoes. I wanted those specific Pumas, and I found them. Found those shoes, and I had them for years. They were like my favorite shoes that I had. I just love those shoes. Yeah. But imagine, I don't know, running through the mall. Was that a good plan or a bad plan?
Yeah,
it works. But
driving crazy through the mall is better than driving crazy through the streets. So I mean, good idea.
It's just weird. Like, could you lose the cops in the mall? Like, and how high would this meter go?
Yeah. Well, when he took the escalator with his car up to the second floor, I mean, that's when you lose the cops. I mean, that was the best move. Which, let me ask you, was the car on the escalator good CGI or bad CGI for 2006?
It was both. I
thought it was kind of good. Like, it was obviously CGI, but not terrible.
There was a lot of weird CG in this,
This is the time of our lives when CG was weird. Where
they were experimenting.
They didn't perfect it, so it was realistic, but not like the early 2000s were a weird time for CGI. So I can't really blame it for looking bad.
They were. Yeah. I don't know where we should bring this up because it was in the beginning, like you heard it, but he also talks to his doctor. So like another aspect of this is he's constantly on his cell phone while doing things. So while driving, while running, while fighting guys, while whatever, while hooking up with his girlfriend, which we'll get to in a second. It's just funny to me, but he calls his doctor, and I don't know where to bring the doctor up, but like the doctor's telling him like what he needs to do. Do you like the inclusion of the doctor? And like this guy was like one of those special doctors, right? It's like the John Wick doctor where it's like he's not. He's
like a doctor for the ne'er-do-wells and seedy underground.
Yeah,
doctor.
You're not gonna like find this guy on the insurance website. He's like a seedy doctor. But I like this guy, Dwight Yoakam. I thought he did a good job.
He was calm under pressure the whole time. He was a good doctor. He took a flight for the guy. He took a flight for Chev.
He's like, I'll be home in an hour. He looks like he always looked like Tom Petty to me. I feel
he does.
He does. He looks just like him. So then he's being chased by the police, and then he gets into a cab. There's also another early 2000s joke in there that I'm not even going to mention, but it was the time of that time. But I have to tell you, like, one of the hardest laughs that I did in this movie completely was him trying to amp himself up by headbanging in the back of the cab to Achy Breaky Heart.
Yeah.
It is not a hard song at all. And he was shaking the car by trying to amp. Like, I wish that I could put a video of this because it was so funny.
See, I think it's easier to do this now than it was back then, because now you have like some examples of like August Burns Red or like Punko's Pop, type songs like that, where they take soft songs and make them hard.
Yeah.
So you could like fake your way into like you could like do it in your head and hang back to it. Yeah. Whereas that kind of thing didn't exist in 06. So it's kind of like you had to invent a new genre there.
I'm laughing because it's like I could see it in my head very clearly. Like, and when I tell you, like, he's shaking the car trying to pump himself up to like a song that is not hardcore. And it's so he was like, acting as if it was like, Metallica, Enter Sandman or something, where he was just shaking so hard. And then I have to ask you a bunch of questions about this, but he winds up at a gas station and he's like looking for like caffeine pills and stuff. And he's just throwing everything into like a plastic garbage bag.
Oh yeah.
Like robbing the place
of all of its energy.
I feel bad like for everybody. I'm sorry that I'm just laughing like an idiot today. This movie is hilarious to me. It's like unintentionally hilarious, but he's taking energy drinks. But you mentioned this before. He was like shopping for them, right? He wasn't picking just whatever. He was like looking for the ones he wanted. So
this guy who has no time for nonsense, he's like picking and choosing his energy drinks. Like, oh, I'm going to take some from this row. I'll take some from this row. And like, instead of doing like the full like arm sweep. So I guess like you have to like know like what are the best energy drinks for adrenaline, and does it work that way? Do energy drinks speed your heart up?
It does, because it's caffeine.
Like, but like, and is there such a thing as overdosing on caffeine, or is a certain point does your body just not like react to it anymore?
You definitely can overdose. You definitely can, and that's why like they have the warnings all over the things.
Well, then why wasn't he chugging these things all movie? Then
he should have, but I don't know that it's gonna do adrenaline. Like it might make
it's not the same thing.
Like is it the same chemical effect? It's not epinephrine or ephedrine or whatever the hell they were talking about. It's caffeine, and his heart is beating fast. But I guess by definition, by your heart beating fast, it's also gonna give you adrenaline. I don't know.
I guess it couldn't hurt, right?
What's your go-to energy drink if you had to get one?
Monster zero.
What flavor?
Orange.
So like the Sunrise or whatever it's called?
Yes.
So for the longest time, and when I saw the can in this movie, it made my mouth water. I'm talking the old school white can Rockstar.
The white Rockstar.
Before Pepsi bought them. And if you're listening, Pepsi, you ruined the formula.
That
was
Pepsi.
My go-to. I had one of those all the time. I loved it. It was the zero sugar one. And I saw that style of can brought me back.
Mm-hmm.
I love those. What's the most caffeine you had in a day? Like, did you ever feel that way when you had too much?
No, because 2 is the max. I'm not a huge caffeine guy. I just started drinking energy drinks within the last decade. I didn't drink energy drinks when they were new, and I was never a coffee guy.
Yeah, me either.
So
I liked energy drinks, but I'm also like not gonna have more than one. Like I know there's people that drink a ton, but I have a very vivid memory of you drinking an energy drink. Do you remember what this was?
Oh yeah, it was when I chugged the NOS before a movie. I think it was The Hills Have Eyes, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember. I think you said, I'm sure I could drink that. It's not going to do anything to me. Yeah. Whatever. I wonder how much caffeine was actually in that.
I don't know, but I definitely remember feeling affected by it after. I was wrong.
I got to look this up. NOS Turbo, NOS Original, it was like 160. But if you chug that and you're not used to having it, that'll do.
Yeah. At the time, I was not an energy drinker, and I was like, yeah, I'll chug this. Who cares? And then when I think we watched Hills Have Eyes, and like during the movie, I was definitely affected by it. We're like, not shortness of breath, but definitely jittery.
And I think that was a cool bottle where it looked like a NOS tank. It wasn't even a can; it was like a tank.
Yeah.
So if you had to chug them, so you're just going to be going into the store here, you're just going to get the Sunrise? Because he was doing Red Bull, he did Rockstar, he did all kinds of stuff.
I could chug many flavors of the Monster, no problem at this point. I like the taste. It's delicious.
Yeah, me too. I would drink it if it didn't have caffeine in it. My go-to is the watermelon one. I love that one. That's my favorite one, hands down.
Yeah.
So then he winds up fighting Verona's brother. And did you see that ponytail on that guy? Did you see that?
Yep.
It was a triple braided ponytail.
It was glorious.
That is like, I'm talking all-time hair. Like we talk about ponytails on this show. You obviously have the OG Terry Silver with the dripping wet ponytail. One of the most underrated ponytails on our show was Dorian's henchman from The Mask. That guy, he had,
sure.
It was like shaved head, but only a ponytail. It looked like it was taped on. This guy's ponytail, it might be the best ponytail we've ever had on the show, ever. Like, not even close. It was ridiculous. Gets his hand chopped off, completely destroyed. Verona gets his brother killed. And now Chester Bennington's giving Chev Chelios some nasal spray at the hospital.
What a weird cameo, right? But I guess perfect timing, like, for the hotness of Linkin Park, right?
But then why didn't they have Linkin Park playing in the taxi instead of Achy Breaky Heart? I know they want to do it for the heart thing.
It's the joke.
Yeah, but come on. There's probably something better that they could have done. Get Linkin Park in there.
Yeah, it costs money, You got a $16 million budget, and that's not Taylor's thing.
I just like that they showed him huffing these sprays like constantly, and it was just funny because it is, again, more the comedic aspect of this, which I thought was great.
Yeah, and it's funny. I never really realized, because I used to use these sprays, and they would always say on the bottle, "Hey, don't use this too many days in a row."
Yeah,
or whatever will happen. It could be addictive or whatever. And I guess that's it. It's the ephedrine.
It's because it constricts your blood vessels. And I used to get nosebleeds, and my doctor would tell me use this stuff to actually put it on a tissue and stop it. It does help. So it's funny because you're right. Like, it could be addictive. So then he winds up running around to the hospital. Do you think running around in a gown, like, he didn't have to take his clothes off under the gown?
So this wardrobe change was for the gag only, because him like blending in with the gown worked for about 2 seconds. and like the minute he walked by a cop, they're like, "Hey, that's the guy. He's just in a gown."
What's the Seagal movie when he wakes up from the coma? Remember when the guy walks in and he disguises himself as a doctor?
It was the movie where it was hard for them to kill him.
Hard to kill.
What's that called?
Yeah, that hard to kill one.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was Out for Justice, but it's hard to kill.
It's hard to kill.
Remember when the most conspicuous doctor, he shows up he puts the jacket on? That's what Chev Chelios looked like.
Yeah.
He was completely suspicious. But like, why did he need to take his pants off? He didn't need to do that. Like, he did it.
Yeah, keep the underwear on. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's part of the adrenaline. Is like, hey, I'm going to have my ass out here. That's that's kind of crazy.
They call it free balling, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Get a little wind up there in the crack. Do you think it would make him run better or worse? Like, I don't know. Maybe he's faster. He shed all his clothes.
Oh, so it's like a wind resistance type thing. Yeah. No, it's like oh, people can see my ass. That's kind of.
Yeah.
That makes me feel
shock factor.
A little, makes my heart skip.
And then he winds up fighting Dennis
Reynolds, yeah.
Dennis Reynolds to get some epinephrine. And then he defibrillates his heart and he gets shot back into the
You knew that was coming. They set it up. It was like, okay, there's the defibrillator.
They showed it.
That's going on. Yeah.
They had to do it. And I'm realizing this is an entire episode of Remember This because that's just how it is. But so there he is.
Well, this is all the things that he got cranked on. So this is how it's done.
So do you think the defibrillator would overcharge his meter, or like is it like a quick thing where the meter goes up and then it kind of goes back down quickly because it wasn't enough?
No, I think it's a thing where like it might buy him five extra minutes of extra adrenaline.
Then he winds up shooting an entire syringe of epinephrine. The doctor tells him at the beginning, use a third of it or something, and he uses the entire thing. And he runs a marathon.
I would have used the whole thing.
What if his heart exploded?
Then I'm going to die anyway. I probably would have ignored the doctor too. Screw it. I'll take the whole thing.
I don't know if the next one. Was the next one your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh, what? When he stands up on the motorcycle?
How he does it. He steals the motorcycle, but he also steals something else.
I don't remember what he stole.
He steals the gun from the cop.
Oh, yeah.
As he's sitting at a stoplight in the motorcycle.
Yeah, man. I think that if you get your gun stolen as a cop, you should be fired as a police officer. You're done. Your career is over.
And the other guy gets your job as the cop because he took the gun.
So you steal the cop, you become the cop.
You are the
cops
cop.
Come, you become the cop
No,
until someone takes it from you.
Yeah, it's like stealing a boat, right? You're the captain.
Yeah, this is like a Santa Claus thing.
Yeah,
it's like the gun is that's how we get cops.
You got the jacket. Yeah, you put the jacket on.
Yeah,
so you steal the gun. You become the cop now. You should get fired if you're your gun.
Yeah, you're fired if you can't protect your gun. I think you should be fired.
I'm pretty sure terrible things happen if you do get your service weapon stolen. Yeah. So then he's doing donuts in the hospital. You already heard it. He got the stunt. The best stunt for this, he drives across town. Then he winds up at Amy Smart's house and purposefully burns his hand on the waffle iron. I don't know how this would help him. I feel like it would just hurt him and make him worse.
Mm.
He winds up at the restaurant with Amy Smart because she doesn't know that he's a hitman. He told her that he was a video game developer, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Good cover. Yeah.
And then he's again huffing more of the nose spray at the restaurant. And then he winds up in Chinatown hooking up with her, which was a little bit uncomfortable at first.
Yeah,
it seemed a little forceful.
Sure.
But I don't know. I thought, obviously, this is like the scene that everybody remembers from this movie.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny that she was oblivious to him as a hitman. And they played that up, too, quite a bit because she was oblivious to the things that were going on and everything else.
Yeah, real quick about her character. It was purely for comedic purposes only. She's not a real person, this character, right? Because she seems like too oblivious to the world to a comedic degree to where you can't call her a real human, right? Yeah. I saw, coincidentally enough, we did this movie, and I saw a meme coming around the internet this past couple of weeks where the thing was like, oh, was this the most unnecessary sex scene in movie history? This one. And people were like, actually, no, this is the most necessary.
I was just going to say that.
It is the most necessary sex scene because the main character would have died had he not had sex right then and there.
He needed it. She saved his life. I mean, he says it. You saved my life.
Yeah.
I mean, even that scene was comedic too. Yeah. And like obviously he couldn't get it up and all that other stuff. And then you got all the crowd watching and cheering them on. And then the commentary of it after. And like, they're interviewing the girls on the bus or the tourists on the bus or whatever. And I just thought about this and, they show the mugshot on the TV, which was hilarious. And it's like, what do you think of this madman causing havoc across Los Angeles? And I just think, you take a step back. You said you think of yourself in the first person or the third person or the second person, whatever person it is. And I'm just imagining this happening. And it's like, he wasn't purposely trying to hurt people. He was just driving crazy and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't trying to murder people. So
right. But a madman driving on sidewalks and driving in the mall and this and that and banging people in broad daylight in Chinatown. It's like, those are terroristic actions, right?
It's like a thing that I would, if this happened in Florida, like I wouldn't be, remember it wasn't that guy, like the guy went on like a meth trip and was like chasing alligators and stuff, like a Florida man. That's where the meme comes from. Like this reminds me of that.
This is a guy and he is on drugs. He's like, this is a madman on drugs. And if this guy was running around your hometown, you would stay in your house and not go anywhere. Like I can't go outside today because this guy is running around the city until they catch him.
Yeah. So. I think the most questionable decision was taking whatever that, I don't know what that was, like hash oil or something from the cab driver.
Yeah.
What was in that?
We don't know. And like, I was kind of expecting like a drug scene of like first person hallucinations and stuff, but you can't be taking random drugs if you're this guy, because if it's a downer, you're dead. Right.
Yeah.
It's got to be up.
Did they say?
I am too far removed from the drug world to know what that was.
You think that maybe that was going to be used for something else and they just cut something? I feel
possible.
Like there's possibility where
I feel like there was a setup for that and they just didn't use it.
Because the cab driver made a big point about him drinking that and made it seem like he was going to hallucinate. And I think there was only like one little scene where maybe there's like a voice or something, but it just seemed weird. So anyway, then he winds up in this giant shootout at the factory, and it wasn't, and this is where you find out that Carlito double-crossed him. He's like, he wants you off the streets.
Yeah. And I didn't care, and I did not
It didn't matter, right? It didn't matter at all. And then Amy Smart starts going down on him while he's driving, but He gets angry when she stops, which again, he headbanged harder maybe there than he did to Achy Breaky Heart because he was so mad. Kept his adrenaline flowing. And then his doctor winds up coming home and he sees him. And then he gets like an insulin pump, but it's for the epinephrine, which was a really like clever device, I would say. And they wind up in this big shootout at the hotel or whatever. Yeah. And Don, what's the other guy? Don Kim. He winds up showing up. They have this giant helicopter fight. Like I'm glossing through this, but it was a cool scene. Yeah. Right? It was a cool
scene. It's hard to describe through podcasts just because it's like it happened and it was cool. And I feel like it kind of ended the crankness of it all, right?
It did.
That's where we're ending the crankness of it all.
And I don't think that, I feel like in a way, I almost wish it didn't end that way because I feel like I wish he went out doing street level stuff, you know? Yeah. Like I like the street level stuff.
I mean, he did end it by jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
And making a phone call. Like,
is very adrenaline. That's the most adrenaline junkie thing you could do is jump out of an airplane without a parachute.
I mean, he had to take down Verona. So it was the ultimate Kalitri. He pulled Verona down with him.
You're coming with me, buddy.
And he did it. And then, did you remember how this ended? Because I didn't. I forgot.
I forgot that he died. I did.
Yeah, and the fact that there was a second one, I forgot that happened. But I've never seen the second one. I read the synopsis for it, and it sounded like a hell of a time. I'll say that.
I'd love for them to explain to me how he's still alive, but I'll allow it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I have a question about the art hotel that was going on there during the last scene. So, like there was like art exhibits and one of them was like women in a tar pit. And in the roof, there were women in bubbles.
Yeah. So weird.
Right. How do you get that job? And is it akin to being a sex worker? And like, is it like, you just punch in your 8 hours and you're like, oh, I sat in a bubble for 8 hours and then I went home and then I watched TV. Like, how is that a normal life,
Well, I don't know. It's like, I don't know that if you're in an art exhibit, I think you get that job by knowing somebody. But if you
are an art exhibit.
Yeah, but this is because it's the seedy underworld of Carlito. And I think you're right. I think it is the equivalent of a sex worker. And I think you're exactly right about that. And I don't know that they punch out.
Do these women double as like prostitutes or are they actresses? Are they just
stuck
actresses?
In that world? I don't know that they're willingly. I don't think they're getting paid. Put it that way.
No, they can't. They have to be getting paid. You're saying they're sex slaves? Is that what you're telling me?
It might be. I don't know.
Am I being naive, or am I thinking that they're just like they're the lowest tier of actress, which is like true. below porn star?
I don't know. That's a good question, but you're right.
And you have to sit in a bubble for Don Carlito for 8 hours while he drinks his scotch.
Yeah, you're right. It's weird. And like the mud thing or the tar pit is even weirder. I'll take
that's in the lobby. That's in the lobby. Yeah, the bubble's in the roof.
What would you rather do? Would you be in the tar pit or in the bubble? The bubble's hot, probably.
Yeah, the bubble's hot. I don't know. The tar pit's they're both uncomfortable. I mean, there's no comfort. It's like at least you're sitting down in the bubble, but you're enclosed.
It's like when you play Cyberpunk and you go to Afterlife. Those girls in like the fish tank thing. That's kind of what that is, right?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think maybe they are the lowest rung workers in that place, and that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know, man. I actually will say this. I'm more interested in watching the second one now than when it came out because I enjoyed watching this again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we'll save the second one's synopsis, but let's just say that Chev Chelios had a quote near certain death and somehow he survived. So they made a second one clearly and Amy Smart's in it again. There's some other ones. Would you watch that if we did a summer of sequels or something like that? Would you be down for it?
Absolutely. That seems perfect for summer sequels. So.
I've never seen it, so we're coming up on the summer. Maybe we get some sequels here. And you already said it. Carlito's not worthy of the scale. Verona's not worthy of the scale. We're not even going to put them in the conversation. So I think we'll just have to revisit this in Crank High Voltage. Crank 2, Neville Dean and Turler come back.
Even crankier.
They should have called it Crankier. He is crankier. So anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, send us an email, thelastrowpodcast@gmail.com. We still need to understand the Coke rules, so send us a note there. Leave a comment on the episode.
All you Coke users out there.
thelastropodcast.com. X us, tweet us, Facebook us at The Last Row Pod on Instagram. We will be back in 2 weeks on Thursday, June 7th. And if you're enjoying the show, please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, give us a like. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So how would you maintain a high adrenaline rate if you were stuck? You wake up on your couch.
Man, I don't know. Like, what's the? I am not that guy. Like, what is the opposite of an adrenaline junkie?
I don't know. Like a
couch potato.
Couch potato. What did they say? Like, oh,
yeah.
I mean, you did have a DVD. You could have popped a couple DVDs in there. You know,
yeah.
Take care of business.
Yeah. Just take care of business.
You can't do that. You're like you said, chugging energy drinks. There's only so much you can